Thursday, October 21st, 1982. A very strange sequence of words appeared in the pages of the Los Angeles Times. Quote, wife of famous movie star swears under oath her new perfume does not contain an illegal sexual stimulant. How these words found their way into the Los Angeles Times is an advertising tale that I've always found quite intriguing. Gary Halbert, an old advertising writer and marketing renegade, was at the time working with the cosmetics brand Tova 9, owned by famous Hollywood movie star Ernest Borgnine and his wife Tova. The company found some initial success with some cactus-based face mask, marketed as a facelift in a jar. But the wife Tova wanted to have a perfume for the longest time. Her own Chanel No. 5, her own Miss Dior. But despite flying in many specialists from around the world to craft the perfect fragrance, she was yet to find something that spoke to her. One day, while walking through Westwood Village in Los Angeles, Gary walked by a little kiosk selling little tubes of mysterious liquids. Asking the kiosk girl what these things were, she told him they were essential oils. Somewhere deep in the recesses of Gary's mind sat a piece of information that he once read in a magazine, that at its most fundamental level, a perfume is an essential oil mixed with alcohol and water. Most essential oils are relatively common and inexpensive. Out of curiosity, Gary began quizzing the kiosk girl about which of these essential oils please her customers the most and if any one is more popular than the others. Almost immediately, the girl identified one as the most popular of all, something called China musk. And so Gary said, well, please let me have one of those. Being onto something of an idea, Gary marched down to a jeweler's shop and commissioned a pretty glass bottle to hold his newly acquired magic liquid, and requested the name Tova was to be etched in the glass. A few days later, upon the bottle's completion, Gary presented Tova with the finished product. The pretty bottle, with her name beautifully etched in the glass, filled to the brim with China musk, alcohol, and water. When she asked what this was, Halbert replied with great enthusiasm, "This, Tova, is your new fragrance." You wouldn't believe how much work and experimentation I put into this. I hardly had a chance to sleep for nearly 3 months. This project has involved me in the most difficult research I've ever done in my entire life. Tova responded, "This is it. It's perfect. This is exactly what I've been looking for." So excited was Tova about this new fragrance that she immediately tasked Gary to plan the perfume launch. Initially, Tova hoped to host the perfume launch at a quaint 150-person venue at a boutique in Beverly Hills. But Gary, the devious Gary, told Tova, "We're going to need a bigger boutique." "How much bigger?" "The entire bottom half of the Century Plaza Hotel." That's when he wrote the infamous lines that filled a perfume launch at the Century Plaza Hotel with over 7,000 people. Quote, "The wife of famous movie star swears under oath her new perfume does not contain an illegal sexual stimulant." Finishing off this elaborate ruse at the perfume launch, 2 large, muscular men in tuxedos with a velvet-lined box handcuffed to their wrists delivered to Tova 13 sapphires, each sapphire representing one of the sacred secret ingredients used to make Tova perfume. While Gary's tale reads as much as a prank as it does a bona fide advertising campaign, this story has always served to illustrate to me the fickle alchemy of luxury products. A flourish here, some pretty words there, the execution of a well-played spectacle, and you can perform a miracle. Transform something lesser into something greater. Turn lead into gold.
You're listening to Manipulation Games Psychology and Marketing Podcast with your hosts, Gene and Darren.
Aha! Welcome to Manipulation Game Psychology and Marketing Podcast. I'm Darren with our marketing genius, Gene. And we have a special guest today, Marina.
Hello.
And if you haven't gotten the memo from our beautiful intro by Gene, we're going to be talking about luxury brands. and in particular, how to turn lead into gold. And that's what a lot of luxury brands do, right?
Yeah, it's all lies.
It's all lies.
It is all lies.
It's all fabricated.
Well, maybe. Yeah. But
Well, there's some
I'm
truth to
kidding.
it.
I'm kidding. Of
but there's
course.
definitely a magic aspect to it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It is a form of modern alchemy, right? So in the Middle Ages, right, people were obsessed with trying to turn lead into gold, right? Or to create an elixir of immortality. And one could potentially say that luxury brands are able to do this.
Yes.
The reason I kind of found this word alchemy is from Rory Sutherland, who's the vice chairman of Ogilvy, which is this major advertising agency. And he wrote this book called Alchemy, which is not specifically about luxury, but it's about the kind of the magic and the irrational influence of things, about how we make choices. And one of the things he says in there is that at the end of the day, a flower is just a weed with an advertising budget.
How
That's
beautiful.
hilarious. Like a daisy.
And so today, I think we're going to try to decipher the ingredients necessary to create the magic concoction that is luxury, right? It's something that fascinates us, and it's something that, again, somebody who's kind of interested in advertising and influence, how do these mere objects create such a powerful emotional effect in people's lives, right? And so we're going to do it in kind of an interesting way because we want to try to kind of branch out and make this podcast a little bit less lectury, right?
Lectury. We're not lectury.
Well, just a little bit more discussion, a little bit more messing around,
Entertainment.
and a little bit more potentially chaotic and unstructured,
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm
but
down
still
with that.
useful. And so what we're going to do today is that we created this new format with these index cards. And we have these 3 stacks of index cards, which represent the 3 major themes or ingredients that go into the alchemy of luxury. And we are going to pull these index cards within the particular category, kind of at random, and we are going to see what wisdom we can learn
Okay.
about generating the magic that is luxury.
Okay, sounds great. I mean,
it.
and also, by the way, we should mention Marina was a guest on one of our previous
Yes.
podcasts because she is actually a fashion photographer.
Yes.
So we brought her on to give some insights into these luxury brands because we're just a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
We don't know a lot about luxury brands, Louis Vuitton, Chanel. I mean, we buy for our girlfriends or wives, but she's here to give her
A little
own
secrets.
Yeah.
secret takes on everything.
And for sure, definitely, Marina's definitely more of the target market for
Of
this
course,
stuff.
I am.
But also, she's somebody who's involved in helping create the buzz around these
Yes.
things.
Yeah, true.
Is the fact that without photographers to create the narrative and the story and the mythology, as one of the stacks is, we wouldn't be able to have that effect from a luxury object.
Yeah.
This, again, is
yeah.
a powerful emotional effect.
Yeah, because we had our whole episode podcast about glamour, and a lot of it is the talent of the photographer to tell the story within just an image itself,
Yeah.
right? And that requires a lot of props, scenery, background,
Yes,
costume,
absolutely.
makeup, wardrobe.
And not even photography, like everything, the videos, obviously, the magazine fronts, how do you call them? Sorry, I
Covers.
forgot. Covers,
Yeah.
right? Or like the actual store fronts.
Oh, the
right?
storefronts, yeah.
They
Mm.
design it, they create it in a way that like when you're walking by just looking at a store, you can say, is it expensive or is it cheap?
Yeah.
Just like not even entering and checking the prices, you can tell it right away. So this is the magic, people are doing.
Can I ask you, Marina,
Yeah.
what are your favorite luxury brands?
My favorite luxury brand. Okay. I don't own many luxury products, honestly, myself, yet.
It'll happen soon.
But let's say my favorite brand is Dolce & Gabbana. And because I really want to do ads for them. Like, this is my dream job. This is peak my career. I just want to shoot for Dolce & Gabbana.
So let me then ask you then, why Dolce & Gabbana?
Okay, because again, I have a background, a lot of with Italy, Italian language, and this is one of the brands that represents Italy the most.
Yeah.
right? All their campaigns are so Italian, so romantic, so like sexy, but also playful. I just recently, today, actually, I was on my way here and I saw this ad from Dolce & Gabbana. The new ad was the actor from 365 Days. I don't know. He's like a new face of Dolce & Gabbana.
Kelly Morone or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw their new ad and it's like, it is like they make movies, you know?
Yeah.
And like it's on the streets of Italy. He's walking with this beautiful lady wearing Dolce & Gabbana heels. They're walking together, you know, and then she gets lost somewhere. He's trying to find her and then a bunch of women just like start touching him and stuff. And it's a perfume commercial.
I need that perfume.
I know.
So
And
it's that emotional feeling you get from all the
Exactly.
visuals and imagery. It takes you
Exactly.
a different place. It takes you to Italy,
Yes.
right? And the scent and the smells,
Yes,
and the
they
sounds.
just create, you know, like they just create this mood, this feeling that you can be this, you can have this.
Yeah,
Just
and
by Dolce & Gabbana.
exactly, and that's the brilliance of marketers
Yeah.
and these branding people who understand these core concepts that we teach on our podcast.
Yeah.
And again, go back to, if you haven't watched our glamour episode, you really should watch that to get kind of an idea how they use glamour and these kind of like these alluring, like
Yeah.
hypnotic kind of visuals
Yeah.
to put people into different places in their imaginations and make people like passionate like you
Yeah.
to want to buy their products.
Of course.
Put them under a spell.
Yeah.
Putting them under a spell.
honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. They're creating a world, right? And then the object gives you access to that world once the spell has been cast. So glamour lines up very much with what we're talking about here, with the alchemy of branding. Okay, so since you are our guest, we're gonna have you draw the first card.
All right.
I'm gonna. Yes.
Oh, you're going to give it to me?
Yeah, I'm gonna see. I should have learned this, like the magic way of being able to like hand somebody exactly the card they want.
So which
But-
category of cards are these?
So basically, the three categories that we're starting with. So is every brand, luxury brand, needs to have some dose of craftsmanship in their brand identity at some point, in some way. If it's not there, bad things happen, right?
Okay.
If you think about it as almost a progression, kind of the next step for a luxury brand is the development of the mythology, right? And the development of the mythology is what we were just talking about. It's creating that world. And that's a lot of times, again, when the photographers get involved, when the advertising writers get involved, the development of the mythology, right? And finally, the final stack is that if a luxury brand is successful enough, it eventually becomes a status symbol. And the last section where we talk about status signaling, honestly, is probably the most profound thing I found while doing research on this topic, but how the game theory of status signaling in our society. And all of a sudden, you start thinking that some of these things are so silly, people buying these super expensive products, right? And kind of showcasing them. You think, oh, well, those people are silly. What are they doing that, right? But it's actually performing a very important function in our society. And so that'll be in the status signaling thing. So first stack is
All right.
craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship. All right, let's do it.
And that actually, craftsmanship is such an important topic. I because you see a lot of these kind of behind the scenes videos of how they actually produce these luxury brands, and that totally makes sense to me. Anyways, first card.
All right. I'm sorry. I apologize for my English in advance.
I apologize for my handwriting in advance.
All right. The human touch. Having a product created by a single artisan instead of an assembly line makes each product feel unique and special. This is the first line here. Should I keep going?
Keep going.
Okay. Hermès, Kelly, and Birkin bags, I'm sorry, are crafted from beginning to end by only one person. They stamp their initials inside the bag like an artist would. Oh, that's interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. And just those brands?
That's one thing Hermès is very famous for.
Really? Wow.
And one of the arguments I think we'll make through a lot of these cards is that Hermès is the quintessential luxury brand because they're trying to stick as much as they can to this craftsmanship.
All right, keep going. Each bag requires 25 days to produce, about 24 labor hours. The wait time for customers is a minimum of 6 months.
Wow.
I did not know that.
It's like a car
Yeah.
when they build a car just for you.
Yeah.
And
that's-
Hermès, right, is this luxury brand, right, that started off as basically saddle makers
Okay.
in like, post-Napoleonic France. And at some point in time, they realized, people like they ride saddles. They also need bags when they're riding their saddles.
Absolutely.
The horses, right? And Hermès still makes saddles. Like
Yeah.
you can still go to their boutique in Paris and you can get a custom-made saddle from Hermès.
Wow.
But what they're really, really famous for is their bags. And
course.
we might talk about it at some point. But the most
Every-
expensive bag of all time
Yes.
is an Hermès bag.
Really?
Yes.
And
Every girl
how much is
dreams
it?
about her Hermès bag.
$300,000.
What?
Yes.
For a bag, like a leather?
Crocodile
kind of-
leather.
Really?
Yes. And it's one of these things, it's became this ridiculous, again, status symbol where
Yeah.
Drake apparently owns 100 Hermes bags. And his whole thing is he's waiting for the woman of his life to come into his life so she can basically inherit this collection that he keeps in
my
a
gosh.
2-story room in his mansion.
Goodness.
The heck?
Wow.
So it's a religion, Hermes. The fact that, again, a single artisan is going
Yes.
and from beginning to end is making this product.
See, I didn't know any of this before. But now that, as a guy, I find that kind of very attractive, right?
Right.
For a bag, because we like the artisan craftsmanship. We like it when you buy a Mercedes AMG, it's built by one guy in Germany, some German engineer, and he puts it together in an assembly line and he stamps his name on it. Or, and it's like, it's craftsmanship, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that they have a history behind this where they created saddles, which is very practical.
Exactly.
And went over and created bags. Like, wow, if I was a dude and I wanted handbags, I'd probably buy a Hermès bag.
And
If you
that's
can
cool.
afford
Yeah.
it, right?
Exactly.
And if you have a complaint, right, you can
Yeah.
track down the guy by the initials. I mean, how many guys can there really be in the Hermes factory?
Exactly, exactly.
Initials SM.
Wow.
That's
is-
fascinating.
That is very fascinating. That's also interesting, actually. I think the Hermès, right? It's the one bag that you can spot if somebody has a fake one.
Really?
Only because, again, this is insanely expensive bags that everybody wants.
Yeah.
And you can look at a person, right? And she's wearing like, even not, if it's not a $300,000, right? It's like, I don't know, $50,000, right?
Yeah.
But you can tell, like,
Wow.
were you standing like in a Walmart, with your Hermès bag,
Yeah.
like waiting in line? It's just like, it's
Well,
probably not real.
Well, speaking of
Like,
Walmart, recently there's been the controversy, the Birkin bag. So Walmart,
They have a Birkin bag?
they created a Birkin knockoff. They put a Birkin
Oh, I've
knockoff
heard about
on
this.
things.
Yeah.
Because in fashion, there's no copyright on design.
Yes.
There's copyrights on trademarks, right? So like, nobody can like go and put a Louis Vuitton logo on things, right? But you can copy the general pattern of a Louis Vuitton bag, just use different symbols.
I see.
And that's chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so recently there's just been this whole thing where I guess Walmart has a fake looking Birkin bag
Wow.
on their shelves, and it's kind of caused a bit of a sensation. But even like the whole thing about the bags, you can
Yeah.
tell that they're fake in some sense, where every like stitch of the bag is like hammered, so it's flat. So like they first of all they have to double stitch it all with a single string all the way through. So they basically use a single string through the whole bag,
Whoa.
right? Using this like old double stitching technique. You create it for essentially for horse harnesses, so horse harnesses don't break.
Yeah.
And then they hammer it in with like a wooden mallet to get it super flat.
Whoa, wait, the real Hermès bag? They
Yeah,
did
so
that,
that
or-
again, that's the kind of
Or the
that's the
birch?
craftsmanship that goes into it.
Okay, interesting.
So like you said,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I guess the equivalent for guys maybe. There are a number of guys I know who have a Rolex, like a real Rolex, even though they probably shouldn't because it's probably not a great purchase in
Okay.
terms of their where they are in life. But it's rare to see a guy with like a real Patek Philippe.
Yeah.
You usually tell if a guy who like has like even like whatever the next tier of watches is,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can sort of tell like, okay, this guy, but this guy drives like a Honda Civic.
Yeah, exactly.
You
It's
know?
just like,
Well, what I really like about the Pateks is that they're very low key looking.
Yeah.
They don't look really fancy at all, a lot of them, but they're the most expensive watches, which
Yeah.
is so cool.
If you
But
know, you know.
If you know, that's the thing. It's a status symbol for guys because we appreciate the internal, mechanics of it,
Yes.
right? The craftsmanship.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the whole parallel of these bags, because then I would never get a bag. I would never spend $3,000 for a bag for myself as a dude. But if I had a choice and I knew, it was all like hammered,
made
and,
specially for you.
Yeah, made for me with a name, with using just one string. Like that's cool. That's almost like a watch,
Yeah,
Exactly.
So I would
there's,
totally get
there's a
that.
funny line in the Alchemy book by Rory Sutherland where a guy would spend potentially thousands of dollars to get a watch that loses like less seconds per day, but still never shows up on time.
Wow.
The irony that
That's
somebody will
funny.
spend thousands of dollars to get a mechanical watch that loses less seconds per day,
my
but still
goodness.
not never be somebody shows up on time.
That's funny.
All right.
That is. We have a couple questions here. Should I read those?
Yeah, the questions are just to kind of play around with the discussion, but yeah.
Okay. All right. When is the last time you worked on something more than 24 hours?
Like on a project, yeah.
24 hours?
Yeah.
I can't even think anymore because everything is just so automated now. I use like AI and like it's just,
Okay.
24 hours, probably some coding project for a website.
Okay,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, since I'm a coder, so I probably spend
Yeah.
on a
Alright.
We also
website.
edit quite a bit too.
Yeah, or edit stuff, but the editing is really quick. I usually
Yeah.
can do that quickly.
Okay.
What about you, Marina?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, probably editing. It takes me a little longer. or just editing pictures. I kind of take my time. I just, dive into it. And then I usually spend like 2-3 days on a project, just nonstop almost.
I have a problem. When I produce music, I can get lost in inside of the production software for days,
Okay.
just tweaking knobs here, tweaking things there, and I don't know if any of it's actually making things better. But you become obsessed. It's like that line, like Pablo Picasso, a work of art is never finished; it is only abandoned.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, okay, so again, like these bags, right? They take a minimum amount of hours. So when you
Yes.
buy it, you know that you're paying for not only the materials but the man hours,
The person's life,
Yes,
the
the
person's
person's
life
life.
a whole
force.
day, right, working on this thing.
So if you think about like the elixir of immortality, which is one of the things in alchemy, right? When they're trying to
Yeah.
go for it, there's an aspect of turning lead into gold, but then it started to dawn on me. There's also a lot of weird things with luxury brands about the elixir of immortality, where in some ways you're buying this person's life force, the person who created this bag, right?
Yeah.
A little creepy,
And
but
it shows up in other ways. There's almost like a vampiric aspect to luxury brands.
Marina, we're buying your life force
right.
right now.
Please.
All right, should I pick one?
Yeah.
All right. Put it here. Pick a good one.
Okay. Everyday carry. Objects that can become a physical extension of you carry more luxury meaning than objects that sit at home. The handbag is the ultimate luxury product category. Handbags carry the most luxury prestige and generate the highest revenue for brands. Huh.
Okay, we have two handbag
Handbags.
cards in a row.
Interesting.
I mean, I can talk about handbags all day long.
Yeah. So what's weird about
Yeah.
these brands, right, is that there's even a phrase. I think Tom Ford says it. Clothing is a loss. Like clothing loses money for luxury brands.
Yeah,
Oftentimes.
they basically make their money on bags, right?
Right. And one of the things about the question of alchemy, what it is like, what do you have to do to charge 12 times the manufacturing cost of an object, right? Which is the average cost of like a leather good handbag. It's like a premium level product, which is kind of a stage below,
Yeah.
about 6 times manufacturing cost, but the luxury brands are like 12 times manufacturing cost. Louis Vuitton's like 13. And so what do you have to do to get there, right? And what ends up happening is that the majority of these companies, they make most of their money on these leather goods. So Tom Ford would be like, clothing is a loss,
Yeah.
but I'll make the fabulous dresses and I'll slap on a bag, for the fashion shows just so the bag sells.
Wow.
Interesting, because what you're saying is that, again, like clothes, you wear them once
Yeah.
and then you don't wear them again. But luxury, like bags, you bring your bag every single day. Or you wear your watch
Yes,
every
exactly.
single day.
Well, you switch them.
Or you can
ideally,
switch them
but,
around.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but it's
but
something
still, like-
that you bring around. And I don't know if you guys knew that. Actually, when you buy a luxury product, right, especially bags, they come with passports. Did you know that?
What does that mean, passports?
No.
Every bag has a passport. So basically, if you buy a Louis Vuitton bag, if you buy an expensive bag, they come with like a little envelope and there is a bag's passport. Whereas like everything is written about the bag and it's basically the document that proves that this is real and authentic. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's like when you buy Wagyu steaks, you get a certificate and it tells you what the parents of the cows' names are and where they're from.
Almost. Yes.
This is Phil.
Yes.
But that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's like where it came from, its origins.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Basically.
Yeah, so like you said, watches I think are the equivalent for guys, but an object that's an extension of you. Where Queen Elizabeth, right, which she would almost never walk around without a bag, and she had maybe 2 or 3 bags that she would primarily carry around with her.
Okay.
And so the kind of the ultimate luxury products from the point of view of a customer are the ones that are become an extension of you, which oftentimes is the handbag for women, because again, it goes around. And then from the standpoint of the businesses, right, they lose so much money by the fact that you have to have different sizes for clothes.
Okay.
Think about like how many pieces of clothes are just hanging somewhere because they're never going to be matched up with somebody who fits the style and the size of that object. While bags are a one size fits all thing. It can be an heirloom that gets passed along, and it's a thing that exists for a long time.
And it doesn't lose value if you take care of it. So it's an investment.
Interesting. Very much again like a watch for a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Okay,
All right.
awesome.
Let's
Next,
see. I'll do
your
one.
turn, Gene.
All right.
Okay, what do we got here? Okay, so this simple concept. So moving top down, it's easier to start with the best possible expensive high-end product and then democratize your offering, rather than starting with a cheap mass market product and then trying to move up to premium products. Mm-hmm. Initially, what I was thinking about with this was when Tesla first came out with the Tesla Roadster. They didn't try to make a car for everybody. They made a car for like rock stars,
Okay.
like a super fast electric car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's how they kind of got people to start transitioning mentally, like, oh, electric cars might be a cool thing. So for a lot of businesses, and I've noticed this with the previous company I used to work with, right? They started off with the highest end client possible, the highest boutique level service. We're learning from it,
Okay.
and then figuring out the cheaper version of the product. And that's also something that seems to happen with luxury brands.
That's a very practical advice. Again,
Interesting.
used by Tesla. They probably knew about this and that
Probably.
concept. Started at the high end. And, I see this too because it makes sense because there's a lot of low end luxury items like perfume, right?
Yeah,
It's
makeup.
makeup, right?
It's-
And like for example, my girlfriend, she likes Dior perfume, but it's like how maybe $100 or a couple
Yeah.
$100 or whatever it is. It's not thousands of dollars, so that makes so much sense.
yeah.
Exactly. Oh,
right.
okay. Let's see. Timeless craftsmanship. You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You may look after it for the next generation. Okay, you'll have to explain this.
You never really own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation.
Okay.
So it's their tagline. It's basically means like, you don't own the watch. Your job
Okay.
is to hold on to it for
The next generation.
your next generation.
Wow.
It's a statement of how long it lives.
Wow. That's very pretentious.
It's super pretentious.
At least 65% of all Rolls-Royce cars are still operating and on the roads today. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. That's cool.
That is crazy.
65% of all Rolls-Royce cars are still operating on the roads today.
Wow.
So what is the oldest Rolls-Royce? When did they start?
I think they started in the 1920s.
Ooh.
And they're still going. That's kind of, again, that's that whole craftsmanship aspect. Everything today, a lot of things that we manufacture today are manufactured to break.
Yeah.
But some of these things are built on the idea that they're going to be timeless.
Yeah.
Okay. Unlike many modern projects, great luxury items are meant to last forever. That's what he just said.
So it reminds me of
That
this.
is
There's this
interesting.
these surfers found this Rolex in the middle of the ocean in Australia,
Okay.
and it was like covered in coral reef. And they found it just at the bottom of a beach, and they took it out, and it was there for like just decades. And they took it out, and it was still working.
Interesting.
And so timeless, timeless products.
I like it.
So products that can last pretty much a lifetime, or like that can exist for hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
That's the value, and you're
Yes.
just kind of watching over it.
And you were just watching over it, right?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And so, in that sense, from that standpoint, it makes sense to kind of maybe invest in something really special if you're going to be passing it along to your kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what is the oldest product you own?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like in a different life, my dad had to be a smuggler
Okay.
in the post-Soviet situation, and his mom gave him this stiletto knife.
Ooh.
So my dad had to pretend to be like a gangster
Pretend.
to smuggle products. Well, basically, like he'd be on the
Okay.
roads, right?
Yeah.
This is post-Soviet space, so is like Ukraine is very chaotic at this point in time, and they'd be importing products, from foreign markets, and to not be held up on the road and be robbed by real gangsters. Him and his friends would pretend and try to look as much as gangsters as they could,
Okay.
status signaling, and he
Okay.
had this stiletto knife that his mom gave him.
Wow.
So they
Okay.
could like import like things like denim and jeans and like candy bars, because in the post-Soviet Union, right, all those things all of a sudden became major commodities because no one had these things.
Yeah. Iron wall.
Vinyl records, like it's
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah.
How about you, Darren?
I think my oldest. That's a really good question though, because it's like you have to start thinking about it. Like, what is the oldest thing that I own? It's probably this medium format camera from like
Okay.
the 30s or 40s, but it still works. It's like this really cool top down camera. It has a viewfinder. You look down, you open the top, and you can take the most amazing pictures out of it.
Okay.
And it still works to this day. And you still buy the medium format films, and you load it up, and it's crazy because medium format, as you know,
Yeah.
is like the 8K version
Yeah,
of
of the
like
digital,
photography.
yeah.
The resolution is still way higher than
Insane.
what we were able to digitally scan
Yeah.
until very recently, when we went
Yeah.
up to like 8 whatever
Yeah.
K whatever
Yeah.
to 30 megapixels that it's
Yeah.
equivalent to, right?
That's
And
crazy.
it still works to this day, and it's beautiful. And actually it works better than a lot of modern cameras because your viewfinder is like this big, and you
Okay.
can frame every shot perfectly as you take it.
Nice.
And it's like, what is that, like 80 years old, and it still works.
Still works.
Yeah.
Old school mechanical objects are just so cool.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
steampunk in my mind,
No,
right,
for
Darren.
sure.
Okay. Let's.
I'm gonna
we're
quickly
still under-
before
yeah.
you start. I was thinking about the oldest.
Oh, yes,
thing
sorry.
I
What's the
have.
oldest thing you have?
Oh, sorry.
I think it's actually this thing
Oh.
I have right here. This is my great grandmother passed it on to me.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so she owned it, and then when I was born, she passed it to my mom, and my mom gave it to me, and it actually has engraving here. It's like 1997. I think that's when she gave it to me. So
Whoa.
and she was wearing.
But
so
it's
I
a
think-
very old
yeah. I think
object.
it's a very old object. Yeah,
That's kind of
so
cool.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Timeless.
You're holding it on, holding on to it for next generations.
Exactly.
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what luxury brands
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
They create this.
If they do it well.
Yeah, they create this whole
Yeah.
narrative brand where you're buying more than just whatever the value is of its
Exactly.
materials. Okay, we're still on craftsmanship. The Chanel pyramid. The prestige of a high-end product infects other products under the brand. Karl Lagerfeld created the pyramid to revive Chanel. The top is a haute couture dress worth $100,000, then jewelry, then ready-to-wear handbags, accessories, fragrances, cosmetics, all the way down to $30 nail polish. Oh, so it's like a pyramid.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about before, right?
Yeah. So
The-
after Coco Chanel passed away, Chanel continued to exist as a brand, but they were going through a lot of trouble because they didn't have a vision. And this guy named Karl Lagerfeld came in, and he was kind of a big visionary. And one of the big aspects for luxury brands is how do you grow? If you are exclusive, how do you grow? And what he figured out was this thing, the Chanel pyramid, which is, again, you create a super high-end dress, right? It means you can't really make low-end dresses anymore.
Okay.
But as long as you have the categories, you can make a $30 nail polish, right? But you can't make a $30 dress.
Yeah.
But what they call it is it's called brand diffusion, where the idea, the energy of the brand kind of filters down through the pyramid. And it's one of the ways that you can essentially make money in luxury. Chanel got famous with her dress designs, but she became the richest woman in the world via her perfume.
Got it. So so again, it's like you can only make $100,000 with one dress, but you can probably make $100 million with nail polish.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
nail polishes.
With a lot of $30 nail polishes.
Yeah, because
or
everybody
perfume.
wants to be part of it, right? It's like, oh, I can't own this dress, but I can wear this nail polish, And it's Chanel. It is officially Chanel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
the association with the craftsmanship,
Yes.
right? So like a luxury brand doesn't necessarily every single item need to be a crafts item
Yeah.
made by a single artisan. The way they actually figured out how to exploit the brand, and if they stretch it too much, they can get into trouble, is through these diffusion lines.
Yeah.
Is that you need to have some sort of core of something very, very high end, but then that thing can essentially infect all the other products and other categories, the sunglasses, the cosmetics, the perfumes, with the energy of the brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, perfume, makeup, all those things
Yeah.
embody this kind of concept.
Yeah.
For sure. Even
Okay.
jewelry, like this luxury brands, they make jewelry, right? But it's not all like gold and,
Right. Yeah.
expensive materials. They can do like just, metal kind of bracelet, but it is still Chanel, but it's not that expensive.
Or sunglasses, too.
Or
It's
sunglasses.
just
Yeah,
plastic.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally plastic.
Well,
yeah.
okay. Sometimes they would, like Cartier has like a golden sunglasses are made of gold, but,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
but mostly plastic.
One day we'll talk about the Luxottica monopoly on sunglasses, but that's a different topic for a different story. Okay, the loss of craftsmanship. When craftsmanship is completely removed, the brand will eventually lose prestige and meaning. In the 1950s and 1960s, Pierre Cardin is the pinnacle of luxury craftsmanship for his futuristic haute couture dressmaking. In the 1970s, Cardin starts making big profits through mass licensing. Plastic lunchboxes, ashtrays, cigarettes, pens, pencil holders, frying pans, bed sheets, steering wheel covers.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He makes a lot of money. He does.
Okay.
2011, he tries to sell his brand, but no one will buy it.
Whoa. So there you go. That's a real life lesson right there.
So that's when brand diffusion goes haywire.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you get a little greedy and try to spread out all your products across all these
You start slapping your logo on everything,
Yeah,
right?
your
And all of a
logo.
sudden, it starts to lose meaning, right?
Loses
It
its
loses value,
It
right?
loses value, right? It loses
Exactly.
exclusivity. So what I guess Karl Lagerfeld did with the Chanel pyramid was he found a good balance.
Okay.
Is that you can infect a $30 nail polish,
Yeah.
right, or a lipstick,
Yeah.
with the $100,000 haute couture dress,
Exactly.
which is haute couture. I guess if some people might not know, because I didn't know this before, is a dress made custom
For you.
for you.
I see.
It's not something you buy off of a thing.
Yes.
So usually they're individual, unique pieces that do not exist anywhere else in the world afterwards.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like a lot of fear. I think a lot of people have is they have a little they're skeptical, right, about these products that they buy because there's so much Chinese stuff out there that are
Yeah.
so cheap that are like the Target brand or the Walmart brand,
Yeah.
the equivalent of these expensive bags. So sometimes you really don't know if you're getting ripped off or not, right?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
Like
There are
the
some-
sunglasses is a good example.
there's some horror stories. I didn't know if I was going to mention like this, but like for example, like I was reading a story about how Valentino, which makes suits, right? They would have their suits manufactured in Egypt, and in Egypt they would have to have like this made in Egypt tag on the suits, right? And so they would get shipped over to Europe, right? And there'd be a guy whose job is to rip out the made in Egypt tags out of the suits.
That's
Right.
crazy.
A lot of these brands are, because of economic pressures and because they are chasing the almighty dollar, are shifting manufacturing to places like China and Bangladesh and other places, while still claiming
That they're manufacturing them.
the kind
Really?
of
Made
while
in
still
Italy.
claiming the story, the kind of the same story that Hermès has with their artisanship, right? I don't think Hermès is doing it, because for them that's what they do, right? But kind of the opposite of Hermès in the luxury market is LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy.
I have an interesting story on this topic.
Yeah?
I used to work for a fashion brand. I'm not gonna name it because they didn't deserve it. But basically, what they did is they put a label "designed in Los Angeles."
Oh,
it was
I hate that.
manufactured in China, but on
I
the
hate
label
that.
it says "designed in Los Angeles."
Oh man,
I
yeah.
recently saw another term. It was labeled "born in Malibu,"
Oh wow.
Wow.
and then it was like made in San Diego.
Yeah.
It was like, what? It's like, that's
I mean,
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Design.
it's like they just try to find a way to
Yeah.
make themselves elevate themselves a little more, you
Yeah.
know. But
yeah,
they're
but
all
people
liars.
people get
I told you, it's
suckered.
all lies.
It's all a facade.
Yeah, and so again, like especially again, if you are primarily chasing the getting rich aspect,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you start finding corners to cut.
Yeah.
It starts off small, like they start removing like little pieces of the packaging in your perfume, and eventually they start replacing the initially natural essences in there with synthetic compounds
Oh,
that
okay.
smell the same way, and it's been happening. And again, the pressure has been there. There have been certain brands that have been very good about holding back against that, but a lot of the ones that are really becoming kind of very mass market, LVMH, because Bernard Arnault, the guy who's kind of heading up LVMH, he somebody came into the business,
Yeah.
and before Bernard Arnault, no fashion house knew what a hostile takeover was. Like that's stuff that happens on Wall Street, and all of a sudden Bernard Arnault shows up and he starts buying up secretly like all the stocks and different things.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Givenchy, Fendi, basically like almost half the industry. He tried to get Gucci at one point in time, and now all these brands are still phenomenal brands, but they have this strong pressure to chase the almighty dollar, and
Of course.
they might go the way of Pierre Cardin at some point.
Really?
Who's the next person to pull?
I guess me.
Well, do you want to move on to another category?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do like.
Okay.
One more.
Yeah.
Okay, one more.
All right. Let's see. The taste for the exotic. Ooh. Using a rare exotic material is an instant way to elevate the luxury level of a product. Farm-raised, corn-fed crocodiles from the Nile River and the salt water of Australia are the ultimate luxury apex predators. This is going back to Hermès. They have this crocodile.
Oh, by the way,
Exotic.
open that book. Because I've seen it because I've seen pictures of it, and you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
can look this up. The most expensive bag in the world. I put a little tag in there. It's the Himalayan Birkin bag by Hermès, and it is a Nile crocodile bag that has this unique pattern of where it's like this white skin
There it is.
Let me
that
see.
kind of heads over into this kind of gray smoky thing, which I guess is reminiscent of what a Himalaya might look like.
Oh,
But that's
wow.
a natural pattern of the alligator. And they have to feed out, of the crocodile. And they have to feed these crocodiles special diets specifically to get this unique pattern,
I see it.
Interesting.
which is pretty wild. And
That's crazy.
And I remember reading how the craftsmen, right? They're talking about this bag, right? And how hard it is to get one of these crocodile skins because these crocodiles like to fight. And you need to get a crocodile skin without any scars.
Scars, yeah.
But I feel like scar would be cool. Can you imagine like a battle scar on your
Yeah,
bag? Like
absolutely.
I
It
It
think-
could be, but I think it'd be a
Yeah.
different
Type of-
different target market.
Okay.
a different brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was watching one of these luxury brand. Again, they have these behind the scenes how it's made kind of thing, and it goes all the way back to the cow, and they have these special cows for, again, because cows, they naturally get like nicks from like barbed wire, so you can't have barbed wire.
Yeah.
For these cows, they have to make sure their leather has no nicks or like defects at all. And they have to there's a guy, an artisan, who's hand picking all the leathers for all the bags for this, luxury brand.
Yeah.
But again, it's that story, right? It's like
You gotta pamper that cow.
That's just really cool knowing that there's one crocodile that they have to pick out of like hundreds.
To make one bag.
To make
I
one
Per year.
bag.
One bag per year, yeah.
Per year. That's one lucky
insane.
crocodile. Or unlucky
Well, no, actually,
crocodile.
for the bags, actually, never mind. It takes 3 crocodiles.
Oh, geez.
For one
3.
bag?
Yeah, because
Wow.
the pattern, the way it works, and I went down an entire crocodile rabbit hole at one point in time.
Oh my God.
Because the different crocodiles, there's an alligator coming out of Florida, there's a crocodile from the Nile River, and then there's a crocodile from Australia, and they have different patterns, right? Of how the belly scales look.
Oh my God.
And so they have to essentially, the cover of the bag is the belly of the
Okay.
crocodile, and it has a very specific pattern depending on which crocodile you got. And so front of the bag, behind the bag, and then whatever the other parts sides. So three poor, I don't know if they're poor crocodiles. I feel like crocodiles are pretty crazy, vicious animals,
Yeah, that's yeah. Well,
but the taste of the exotic.
that's
Yeah.
nuts. That's nuts.
All right, let's move on to the next category.
Okay.
This is one card I just wanted to mention because I think it's important for people to know about this. So fashion versus luxury. Fashion changes, luxury stays the same. So luxury products need to maintain continuity to be recognizable. Otherwise, they will cease to be a status symbol. So while a fashion brand, a pure fashion brand, like Zara, can keep changing its collection every year, completely changing the look of things, luxury products need to, in some way, some elements stay the same. Whether it's the
Consistent.
the LV print, whether it's the Ray-Ban's shape of the glasses, there needs to be something that's staying the same so
Okay.
people can recognize it. So luxury then tends to be very classic.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction that you mentioned there for people who are starting either a luxury brand or a fashion brand if you're out there.
I mean, we're starting a fashion brand, right? Luxury brand.
Well, we could after this podcast.
Yeah, why are we doing all
Yeah.
this research
I
for?
know we could be the next whatever. We could call it. Well, D and G is already taken. Unfortunately,
He's already taken.
Darren and Jean luxury.
I was thinking, Alder. We'll get one of those Hermès little lines on the E at the end. Alder.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. All right, let's do
Mythology.
let's do mythology.
Mythology.
And so mythology, by the way, is as a kind of intro, is where creatives like us often come into play. Right. So craftsmanship, obviously, we're not hanging out in factories, hammering stitches on saddlebags. But the mythology, the creation of the story is where we kind of come in. And there's this guy who has a podcast called the At Large Podcast. His name is Scott Norton. He said something very profound. A marketing department has 2 jobs. It is to make a company rich, and it is to make a company famous. These goals can actually oftentimes be parallel and exclusive of each other. Where, if you're a performance marketer and you're chasing basically the economics of, you put an ad and you're trying to get an immediate result,
Yeah.
you're making the company rich. But with a lot of these brands, right, they first have to make the company famous. It's a high
like
risk
that.
but high reward strategy.
Okay.
It makes me really appreciate branding and wanting to be more involved with branding now that you become part of this mythology.
Yeah,
Alright.
absolutely. Okay, so again, this is the mythology.
Yes.
Right. Fashion shows. Fashion shows don't sell clothes. They associate the brand with spectacle.
Oh, fashion
Okay.
shows. It's a good topic.
Okay, so because I know you prepared some stuff
I mean, I did a little bit.
for this because the biggest profound
Yeah.
thing for me about fashion shows is that fashion shows do not sell clothes.
They don't.
Almost none of the clothes that show up at a fashion show ever actually go for sale.
Yeah.
It's purely a flex by the designers to basically show how fancy they are. and these fashion shows are just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, someone explained it to me once. A girl explained it to me. It's like car shows for car enthusiasts with concept cars that'll never go into production.
Exactly.
But these car manufacturers, they create the most outrageous, crazy designs to, again, flex what they can do to get people excited. But you'll never see those cars out on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's a really good point.
And it's not even about the designs. They create the show. It's called a show for a reason. They make you talk about it.
Yes.
Everybody takes pictures there, right? Like, oh my God, look at this, look at this. And there's some insane fashion shows that exist there.
Yeah.
And again, when we're doing research and I was looking at it and I was like, oh my goodness. So the craziest ones that I saw on internet was Chanel, actually. So Chanel did a couple of crazy shows. For one of the shows, they built indoor beach, like indoor inside the pavilion, or I don't actually remember what place was, but they brought tons of sand, they brought tons of water, they created artificial waves.
Wow.
And the models were walking on this beach that they built, right? And like, with their shoes off, right? So then they can get up and put the shoes on and keep walking. But it was insanely big production. So much money goes into it. And can you imagine? And it doesn't sell anything.
Yeah.
It's just a show. It's a spectacle.
It is. It's spectacle.
Yeah. Another one was also Chanel when they brought a huge iceberg. They brought an iceberg, like literally transported it from Arctica, or
It's from Sweden. It was a 40-ton iceberg. They transported it from Sweden.
What?
for the fashion show.
Oh my
And then they
gosh.
had to also carve it in the way Karl Lagerfeld wanted it to look
my
like, because
gosh.
he didn't like how it looked like on its own, right? So they carved it. They had to keep the temperature below 0, right? So it doesn't melt. So and models were walking through and inside
Oh
the
my
iceberg,
goodness.
and it's insane. Honestly, like go look at the internet.
We'll
It's-
have to find some footage of it. Yeah, that's
yeah,
insane.
there is footage. And okay, another Chanel show. They built a supermarket.
What?
They built a supermarket in the Grand Palais in France. Right? It's a huge. It's like a 10 football fields, I think,
Oh my
size.
goodness.
Right? They built a supermarket. They filled it out with products branded as Chanel. So there was like pickles, Chanel pickles, Chanel, I don't know, flour or something. Bread. And it was insane because like all this fashion show, it was also themed as a supermarket. So a lot of bags were actually they looked like baskets, right? Or there was like a bag wrapped in a meat wrapper, like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And they did all this theme. And for some reason, there was also a Chanel chainsaw in that supermarket. And it's something that I really want to have now.
Wow, I know. Imagine that hanging on your wall right
That's
now.
that's a dream luxury
Yeah.
product right there.
Yeah.
Chanel chainsaw.
So
One of one.
that is crazy. There's many crazy ones. Balenciaga always does crazy stuff. Again, they like going extreme. And one of their shows, basically the invitation to show, it was you received a broken iPhone 6.
What?
And it had a map on it, and it was telling you where to go. So like zero information, just you have to go there. So you have to follow basically the GPS on that phone or something. And you come to a bus station. And bus picks you up, but you have no idea where you're going. And it was driving people for like 2 hours outside of the town. I don't actually remember which town it was in,
I
but
think it was Paris.
was it Paris?
Yeah, I saw videos of this. It was in Paris.
Okay. And then they bring you basically to this crazy set where they created like a basically glass arena or something. And they created a fake or almost real hurricane. Do I say right?
It was
Hurricane,
It was
yeah.
an
Inside-
indoor
Or
blizzard.
tornado.
Indoor blizzard.
Okay.
Right? And so basically the audience sits behind the glass, but the models are actually walking inside in the blizzard. And I also like read and I watched the video about it because the models, when they walked out, they actually had to be warmed up by like special blankets because it was so cold and so insane there.
Gosh, that's
They have
hilarious.
EMTs
was
standing
like-
by to warm up the models.
That's like, again, this crazy designers, they come up with all this crazy, ideas, but also they use like natural locations. Like there was a Fendi show in Great Wall of China, right? And it was like so hard for them to get it. I actually also read that they got the location 6 weeks before the show because it was
Wow.
hard to negotiate with
Wow.
Chinese.
Yeah, I'm sure. I
Yeah.
can imagine. Amazing.
Government. So they did this show on the Wall of China, or they did a show on Trevi Fontaine, I think. Also Fendi, I think it was. What else? Do you remember any other crazy?
Well, okay, so you showed me one that I thought it was just beautiful. It wasn't crazy. It was just beautiful. It was the Dolce & Gabbana
my favorite.
Venetian show where
that's my
everyone's
favorite
arrived.
show.
All the models are arriving on gondolas.
Yeah.
It's actually it's Venetian carnival themed.
Okay, there you go.
To connect to the
Hey.
becoming someone else
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is the creepiest one. I can't remember the name of the brand. We'll look it up, but we can find video of this.
Okay.
So the audience is told to show up at a bridge
Oh, okay.
in the canals of Milan. They don't know why they're there. They're just told, just be here at this time. And they're standing on this bridge. And all of a sudden, a body starts floating in the water under the bridge. And then another body. And another body. And so this brand, they dressed their models up
Their models
in the
were-
collections.
oh my
And they made them
gosh.
play act dead bodies.
And they actually have
floating
like a floating
downstream.
devices.
Oh,
so
Downstream under this bridge.
Oh god.
How freaky would that be?
that
You
is
just hang out at a
weird.
bridge and all of a sudden like there's a body.
But basically, it's all made to create a buzz,
Yeah.
fuzz. I don't know how do you say it correct, right? Because again, they don't sell that stuff.
Yeah.
And then people mostly show up there because it is a social event, right? Everybody shows up, everybody shows off. Like you wear your best clothes. It doesn't have to be the same designer, but you kind of like do an
Yeah.
off for the designer who performs or does the show, right? And people there mostly for after parties.
Yeah, makes sense.
But again, these fashion shows, they bring all this kind of high top level people together, and it's more important who was at that show,
I see.
right?
Yeah.
Rather than what was at this show.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this celebrity showed up to this fashion show, and then everybody's
Right,
looking
right.
at it.
I
So
remember we got kicked out of the Los Angeles Fashion Week show
we did
because we
yeah.
weren't important enough.
Really?
Yeah.
That's-
They're like, you gotta go. They have to let other people in.
I got us in for the fashion show here in Los Angeles, and we watched one of the fashion shows, and then we were trying to stay for another one, but they were like, "Oh no, this is only like VIP and
Oh, my
only. You
goodness.
can't stand here. You can be here."
So this whole fashion show thing is actually it's highlighting something that's been coming up a lot lately, and I want to think about how to do this more often. But spectacle. So when Ian was here, we were talking about the importance among Roman emperors to create spectacle.
Yeah.
Right, to kind of garner support. Right, that whole story where Gary Halbert at the beginning with the perfume, he like brings in the guys with the muscular dudes in the tuxedos with the sapphires strapped with handcuffs at their
Yeah.
wrist. It's just spectacle. You're just creating a moment in time, right? And you're banking that if you create a big enough spectacle, you can get famous.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then famous
Yeah.
can become financial success down the line as a brand.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever watched the show Project Runway. That's how
I did actually a little bit. Yeah,
That's how I got kind of learned about this
Okay.
whole world, and
Yeah.
it really is like a world of enthusiasts. There's actual fans, people,
Exactly.
fashion fans, who actually love clothing
Yeah.
as a form of artwork. So you have a lot of people who admire the designers to be creative, and it's almost like the models are kind of like a canvas, right?
Yeah.
Or the designers kind of like do their work and show off their artwork. So that's just another aspect that of fashion shows that I've kind of like picked up
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And again, it makes sense because as a dude, I love cars, right?
Yeah.
And I love looking at concept cars just for the artwork itself, the
Yeah.
artistic value of it. So that's another thing I want to throw in there.
Yeah,
if you
no, for
guys
sure.
want to get in this whole world, just watch Project Runway. It's fascinating.
For sure.
Let's-
Actually, last thing I'm going to
Okay.
add. Do you guys know what is the most expensive fashion show ever made?
No.
No.
It is crazy, but makes sense. It is a Victoria's Secret fashion show.
No
It
way.
was 2018, I think, the one they did in China.
Whoa.
And it wasn't like the
Yeah. How
the
many
actual
icebergs
setup.
do they have?
They didn't have any icebergs. They just had a bunch of this expensive models and the performers, and it was just expensive to transport everybody there and keep everybody there. And there was a lot of personnel, and that's the most expensive fashion show.
That's no fun. I would have like cheap models and then like more icebergs.
More
Icebergs.
All right.
We're just dudes.
All right.
I picked one.
Okay.
Oh, you did?
Is my
Okay.
next?
Yeah.
All right. Ooh, okay. It actually kind of fits. Advertising versus press coverage. Again, there's this whole battle between Louis Vuitton and Hermès.
Okay.
As in terms of the philosophy of what they're up to. Louis Vuitton spends 2/3 of its marketing budget on advertising. Hermès only spends 10% and instead invests in events like horse races to gain exposure through press coverage. So exactly what we're talking about here about spectacle, right?
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton is the biggest like purchaser of like magazine space of all the magazines, right? There is, including all the different companies that are under the Louis Vuitton, Moët, Hennessy brand, while a brand like Hermès is like, we don't advertise. And historically, fashion brands up until like the more recent era were always like, luxury brands, like, we don't advertise.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, we are worn by Jackie Kennedy. We don't advertise.
I like
What
it.
is this, right?
Wow.
And so, obviously, I feel like if you can pull it off, the Hermès model
Okay.
is cooler.
Oh, it's way cooler.
It's a bigger flex.
Yeah, absolutely.
sure.
Because like I didn't realize that only 10%. That's not a whole lot. That is a huge flex. Because I mean, they're basically saying, hey, yeah, we know we're good, and we can just throw our back somewhere in a horse race, and we'll get coverage, and we'll reinvest it back into like the craftsmanship. But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like if I was
That's
if I was gonna choose bag between Hermès and LV after this podcast, I'll 100% go for the Hermès bag.
I think Hermès, still has an advantage in the sense they're still family owned.
Yeah, that's another plus.
Right. And so I think they can make riskier decisions.
Okay.
While LVMH, right, it's a publicly traded company. They do have obligations to their stockholders, right? So that they constantly be increasing their profit line.
So on the flip side, I mean, LV is probably a more profitable.
Oh no,
company
yeah,
than-
they're
by
way more
far.
profitable. But again, and they're kind of pushing the boundaries of what it is. But it's a completely different philosophy.
Interesting.
Again, I don't want to like rag on Bernard Arnault too much, right? Because he has revolutionized the industry.
Okay.
But again, there's a different philosophy of what they're chasing. Again, it's
Yeah.
LV's more chasing being rich, and Hermès is more chasing being famous.
Famous.
If you think
Yeah.
about those
Okay.
as kind of sometimes opposing
Got it.
goals in marketing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's pull more cards.
Next one.
Marina, you could pull one.
All right. Let's see. Saving a brand. Gucci boardroom in the 90s. How do we save Gucci? Make Tom Ford a star. If you want to elaborate on that. If an old brand is struggling, make the hat designer a rock star. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So there's I guess a meeting
Yeah.
in a Gucci boardroom because I think this is probably even post the House of Gucci.
No. I think the House of Gucci,
Okay.
the movie, I don't know if you ever saw
I
the
haven't
movie.
seen it.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
cute
good one.
movie with
I
Lady
think
Gaga.
it actually ends on Tom Ford walking into the room
Oh,
and presenting
okay,
his
yeah.
designs and them hiring
And so-
him. Yeah.
And so basically, they're trying to figure out how do we save Gucci, right? Because it's
Yeah.
going downhill. And it seems like the tactic is that if your Coco Chanel is gone, you have a Karl Lagerfeld. We've mentioned Karl Lagerfeld a
Yeah.
few times. He's the one doing the crazy iceberg show
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with
Okay.
Chanel,
And
right? And the
supermarket
supermarket,
and
whatever.
everything.
You make your new designer a rock star.
Yeah.
And the craziest version of it is like Marc Jacobs in the pigeon costume.
Oh, yeah. That was a Halloween? Oh, no. It
No.
was Venetian. It was Venetian parade or like
It was
the
just a fashion
carnival,
show.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it was a carnival. And I think there was a dress code and you had to dress up in a theme, but he actually showed up in a pigeon costume.
In a full pigeon
everybody
costume.
else was like trying so hard, to get this like expensive, like this dresses, costumes. He's just like, I'm just going to come as a pigeon.
Huh,
And it's related to Venice. So,
Yeah, and
It's
so
just- okay.
So,
Makes so
a big
much
a big
sense.
part of it is that if your brand is struggling, you have
Yeah.
to essentially take your creative director, your head designer, and you have
Yeah.
to make them a star, which is a dangerous move because then Tom Ford is now a separate brand from Gucci, right?
Oh.
He has his own brand because you become a big enough rock star,
yeah.
you start your own fashion house.
Interesting. I didn't even know that whole backstory.
So,
So before Tom Ford was just a
Young boy
designer.
designer, yeah.
he's brought in to
Was
try to
one.
save Gucci.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you
Fascinating.
make your person a star.
Wow.
I
All right.
like it.
Okay, that's a tactic.
Nice.
Do we keep going with mythology?
Yeah, let's keep going. There's a lot of good stuff in mythology.
All right, let's
Oh, you pulled two.
mythology for $200, Alex. The need for speed. Car brands must win races to achieve luxury status. During the Formula One winning streak of Mercedes from 2014 to 2020, the sales of their high-performance AMG models doubled. Wow,
This is the
that's
perfect
totally
card for
true.
you, actually.
Yeah, I do have an AMG Mercedes,
because-
and it has someone's German guy's name on it, stamped on it. But that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, of course, Formula One. Yeah, why are these car companies spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars to race, right?
Yeah, it's wild because again, you're creating the mythology, right? What's kind of weird, right? So almost every single brand that is a major luxury brand has competed in races in some form. Either Formula One or the other big one is the 24 hours at Le Mans, right? So Bugatti, Bentley, everybody's there. Ferrari. Funny enough, apparently Enzo Ferrari, right? He had his road car business of him selling commercial cars just to fund his racing addiction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like it was a secondary afterthought. But his friend Ferruccio Lamborghini had a completely different point of view, and Lamborghini doesn't race at all. For whatever reason,
But it's a racing car.
he decided not to participate in any races. They host some sort of race. It's a Lamborghini only race. It's kind of like just a spectacle.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, the Ferruccio Lamborghini decided that he's not going to take the route that Enzo Ferrari did, where Enzo Ferrari became completely obsessed with racing and decided not to race the Lamborghini. And it's like the one thing that kind of stands out among all the other cars, the McLarens, the Jaguars, every single other brand has had to have wins either in
Okay.
Formula One or in these long endurance races.
No, yeah, that's totally true. And then there's also car brands who get into racing who aren't known as sporty luxury brands, like Nissan, right?
Yeah.
They had their own sports cars. Ford produced a Ford GT, right, to go race in these races because they want to get in that luxury market. Because again, Ford is just known for everyday normal kind of cars.
Yeah.
But it really didn't work out for them at the long run because again, it kind of went from you can't go from the everyday sedan to the luxury car. You have to start from the top. And
down works
Ferrari and Porsche and McLaren, they all have these high-end luxury cars where they can race and it works for them, but it doesn't work for Ford, right? So that's kind of interesting.
It's tricky. And interesting how Red Bull's entered the market now. in
They're
Formula
not
One.
even.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, but they're chasing kind of the whole adventure aspect, which is a really big thing.
But which car are they driving?
The Red Bull.
No, but they have.
I think they hired
Honda. Yeah.
Honda makes their engines. Yeah.
But
Okay.
they're actually now developing their own engines.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna start a car production?
I don't know.
Car?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think just for them, they again the association of Red Bull to people doing crazy adventurous things is
Okay.
so important that it's a worthy investment. Again, they're not trying to get rich in the moment. They're trying to get famous.
Famous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Oh, this is fun. Okay, the neuroscience of handbags.
Back
A
to
2017 neuroimaging study presented identical handbags to women with a luxury label and without. The liking circuits of the brain fired off much stronger for the same bag when the luxury label was present. Basically, the mere presence of a luxury label on the handbag generated an increased pleasure response in ladies. And I guess an additional point to make, apparently 15% of the European and American luxury market is something called the mistress market,
Oof.
What?
when you buy things for your mistress.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I love it. I love it.
But this is the power of again, this mythology, right? What are the
Yeah.
things what products give you guys a visceral a reaction, something whoa.
Well, yeah, probably the labels, but I'm probably gonna throw myself under the bus here, but this is my bag, right? This is gas bag,
Okay.
and I bought it because it's a nice bag, right? But if you look from far enough,
Mm-hmm.
it looks exactly like Prada.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Prada. It's got the same
And it
leather.
has the same
And,
logo.
yeah.
They stole it, I guess, or something.
It
So
looks just like a Prada bag.
guilty, but you know.
No,
but it's
that-
a guess.
It's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I get the visceral reaction to adventure cars,
Okay.
like Jeeps and Range Rovers and like these
Yeah.
kind of things. For me, like that's kind of like if I was going to tap into like a luxury brand, I like adventure. I like kind of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And so, one day potentially that might be something that
Okay.
I would get.
Totally
as
get a
product.
Jeep. Yeah.
Yeah.
The adventure, right? You
The
got a
adventure.
Rolex
Oh, I like it.
and you got a Jeep because
Yes.
it has the potential. You could go anywhere you want in the world. It's
Yeah.
about the potential.
How about you, Darren? What makes you tingle?
I don't know. I mean, I can't really think of anything.
Okay.
I mean, I like car brands.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you want to tingle, I mean Ferrari. I mean, if
Okay.
I see a Ferrari on anything, you put the badge Ferrari on a handbag, I'll probably buy it.
Okay.
Because, you know,
All right.
or the color red, right? The
Yeah.
Ferrari red that they
Yeah.
branded.
One of those Ferrari jackets, maybe.
Yeah, or a jacket. Like
Mm.
Ferrari is such a manly. It's got a horse on it.
It's got a
You
horse
know?
on it.
All right.
So I'd probably go with Ferrari.
I dig it.
Well, it's you, I
Alright.
think.
Okay. Let's do it. Pull from the middle. Oh, that's a lot. Do we worship luxury? Luxury and religion. Symbols proudly displayed by followers. Emphasize a creator myth. Create aspiration throughout storytelling. Promise transformation through sacred objects. Followers make, sorry, I don't know this word,
I'm sorry.
pilgrimages to gain sacred objects. Sacred spaces created to inspire awe. Objects produce pleasure through aesthetics. Great sacrifices made by followers to access the divine.
Okay,
That's a very deep card.
Yeah, it is a very deep
Sorry,
card.
yeah. So basically, that's the ways that luxury and religion are the same. I see.
Okay.
So let's see what's on there. So symbols proudly displayed by followers. They both emphasize a creator myth. The myth of Coco Chanel, the myth of Christian Dior. Mm-hmm. They create aspiration through storytelling,
Okay.
right? They promise transformation through sacred objects, right? Followers make pilgrimages to gain sacred objects. Sacred spaces are created to inspire awe, like flagship stores or cathedrals.
Yeah.
Objects produce pleasure simply through aesthetics,
Okay.
right? And great sacrifices are made by followers to access the divine.
They give up a lot of their money.
All right.
No, that's actually really perfect analogy. I never really thought it connected religion
It's a cult,
with
religion.
luxury brands, but it is like a cult. You have a
Yeah.
leader, right? You have these cathedrals where you have all these products that you sacrifice all your money for, and then you have the transformation. Because, like, again, we talked about, like, what is the point of having a really luxury handbag? It's the whole idea of a woman, as a woman, you go to a party and everyone's
Yeah.
going to show off your bag and everyone's going to look
Yeah.
at it and they're going to be, ooh, oh, look at her.
Yeah. Oh, she has
she's-
expensive bags. She must
Yeah,
be successful. She must have a rich
exactly.
husband. She must have a good job. I don't know. And then it clicks, all this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It ties into such this emotional transformation.
Exactly.
It literally is like before and after, right?
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
your handbag and after your handbag. It's like, I've made it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've transformed. I've made
Exactly.
it in society.
But
Here I am.
again, you can't have a luxury bag and drive a Honda Civic. You can't.
The illusion
You
gets
know?
broken.
Yes.
You come out
Right.
the Hermès bag
Or
in a
you
Honda
just need to
Civic.
live in a place where you don't have cars.
Sure. And never.
No, because they do have this thing in Japan. They buy a lot of luxury products, but none of them have cars or own apartments
Okay.
Okay.
because nobody moves out in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So because there's like economic issues and the kind of things, and so a lot of people end up spending a lot of their disposable income
Yeah.
on luxury products. Let's pull another card.
All right.
Interesting. Here, I'll pull it. All right. Mythology for $400, Alex. Sorry. You don't need to be old. While it helps having a centuries-old heritage like Louis Vuitton, established in 1854, or Hermès in 1837, it is not a requirement. You can apprentice Tom Ford worked for Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent for Dior, Alexander McQueen for Givenchy.
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 It's okay.
It's like, Versace. I had a
Chanel.
Versace moment. Chanel.
Champagne.
I mean, I have the same.
Buy a dead brand. Oh, number 2. Hold on, let me put my drink. Okay. Number 2, you can buy a dead brand. Balenciaga closed in 1968. I didn't know that. Or number 3, start from scratch. Ralph Lauren started his own in 1967. Oh, see, that's another thing that I was going to ask you, Gene, is like a lot of these companies do have that history, right? Of making saddles, for example, in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine it'd be really difficult to start today
Apparently
without
not,
that history.
because new brands are
Yes.
popping up all the time.
It's very true.
And those are the 3 kind of methodologies. Like one,
Yeah.
you sort of apprentice, right? So Yves Saint Laurent started working for Dior, right? Tom Ford started by working for Gucci, and again, they made Tom Ford a rock star, and then Tom Ford spun off, and now Tom Ford is his own
Tom
brand.
Ford.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Karl Lagerfeld also spun off from Chanel. He never left Chanel, but he
Yeah.
started his own side hustle, right?
Yes.
So you apprentice, right? 2, you buy a dead brand, which is what Balenciaga happened.
Okay.
So when Cristobal Balenciaga, who's a dressmaker, passed away, Balenciaga closed because he wasn't making haute couture anymore, right? And 20 years later, somebody came along. I believe it was Kering, which is one of these kind of like, it's like an LVMH. It's a big corporation. Purchased Balenciaga, the dead brand, and revived it, and then put in the correct new rock star designers
Yeah.
to kind of restart the brand. So most people would never realize that Balenciaga had a gap in the continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And it's also so different between how it was
Yeah.
before and now. It's completely different style of clothing, style of
Really?
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, because Balenciaga was making clothes for like nobility and aristocrats
I
and like
see.
super elegant dresses. He's a dressmaker. Or lastly, you start by walking into Bloomingdale's and trying to get them to buy your ties. And that's what Ralph Lauren did in the 1960s.
Okay.
He's not even a designer. He doesn't even know how to cut clothes or design or draw or anything.
Really?
He's just somebody who he likes clothes. He likes things. And when he sees something he likes, he's able to choose it and be like, that's the one, right? And so he found a tie maker and he just told him like, I like that, I like that, I like that. And then he was able to walk into Bloomingdale's and talk them into selling his ties.
Wow.
And then he was making these weird ties. They were like really thick, like these fat ties. So you needed a different type of shirt to wear it with the fat tie. So he started selling shirts. And next thing you know, he's selling suits. And then all of a sudden, people are like, well, why don't you make women's clothes too? And he's a tastemaker. So a lot of people might believe that you can't start a luxury brand. It's not easy,
Yeah.
right? But there's a lot of new people on who are around or coming into their own, right? Like Jacquemus, you were
Jacques
teaching
Mus,
me.
yes.
Jacques Mus,
Yes.
like, that's completely new, right?
He's pretty new.
I believe he's like my age. He's like 35 or something, right? And he's been doing it for 15 years, and he's a major brand.
Designer now, yeah.
And I don't know what he did to break through, but new people are breaking through,
Interesting.
and so it is possible. And if you
Yeah.
use these tactics for 1999.
No, like the formula. I mean, we're learning about the basic formula, how to craft a luxury brand, and it's like a blueprint, right? People have done it, and there's hope for you guys out there who want to start a luxury brand, even now.
Even now,
Just follow these steps. Create the mythology, right? Create the spectacle. Create the craftsmanship.
Right. Am I
All
next?
right, next.
Yes.
All right. Oh, okay. The vampirism of luxury houses. This is just an observation. Luxury houses exploit. Luxury houses exploit and feed on the finite resource of youth and beauty. Once spent, the models are discarded, but the fashion house, like a vampire, lives on.
Very
I
cruel.
like it.
Cruel but true.
cruel but true. Again,
yeah.
You've seen some things in the behind the scenes with the models, right?
I did, and it's a very unglamorous job. I mean, you think being a model would be like, oh, so glamorous. You get your makeup done. They take your pictures, but it's not. They use you till you die.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I mean, till you die, until you have no anymore they can't take from you, right? Well, you're young, beautiful, you have nice body, right? Brands want you, but again, only certain types of models get to the top where you're actually valued and you have a word of say, right? How do you say it? I don't know. But most of the models, they just like they spend hours in lines. They spend, hours like being cold, uncomfortable. I don't know. Now with all this crazy fashion shows, they drown you. They put you in icebergs. they fly you.
Yeah.
There was a fashion show when the models were jumping from the airplane with
Oh
the
my God.
parachutes.
Yeah. No, it's 100% true because again, my ex was a photographer too, fashion
Yes.
photographer, and she worked for model agencies. So we had like aspiring models in our house, for photo
Yeah.
shoots, for test shoots,
Yeah.
right? And they're literally just props. They're
Exactly.
human like pieces of meat, like to dress. They're
Sorry,
like human
models.
dolls. You can't have any say because I know if as soon as if a model shows any attitude or like disagreement with a photographer,
You're done.
you're done. The photographer just tells the agency, "Hey, look, your model did this, acted this way, didn't want to do this, or complained." The agency will just fire you, drop you, just like that, because
Unfortunately.
that is a thing you just cannot do as a model. And that's the
Yes.
thing. You're just a piece of like walking,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
like walking model for clothes. That's all you are.
Unfortunately, the whole fashion industry is, I don't know, people are very rude there. People
Yeah.
are very competitive. I remember I had my internship in a fashion company, and it was the most toxic environment I've
Really?
ever been into. Yeah.
Ruthless,
Ruthless. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't, like your intern, you're trash.
Yeah.
Bring me coffee and disappear. And it's just like, it's terrible. And then if you don't want to do it, there's a line of people who want. So you have to be grateful that you're
Yeah.
kissing,
Yeah.
my Louis Vuitton shoes right now. But unfortunately, it is what it is. And if you want to be in this industry, you have to figure out how to space out, how to understand that this is kind of how it works. Again, hoping that the industry is going to get better and people are going to get nicer. But yeah, you just have to
And
push.
if you want to be a
through.
luxury brand, you have to feed on young, pretty people.
Yes.
Vampirism.
The vampirism.
vampirism.
It's like kind of tying back to the alchemy aspect, where alchemy is turning lead into gold, but also they're seeking the elixir of immortality.
Exactly.
And again, some of these fashion houses now, coming up on a more than a century, right?
yeah.
Like Coco Chanel and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or you know what?
Elixir of immortality.
Maybe you guys can break the cycle if you're starting a fashion brand. Maybe you can put an end to this, and that could be your story, right?
Potentially do something different.
Yeah, you
Again,
have to try
that's
something
Absolutely.
completely
Yeah.
different.
Absolutely.
But again, would old models sell?
Well,
you know?
there are some. I mean, Target has a big market for like older kind of like
Yeah.
mom kind of
Yeah.
models, because I've seen a lot of like models kind of shift towards that end, the lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. But again, like there's only a certain amount of models that can make it to that level.
Yeah.
That it's such a small percentage, and they're gonna reuse the same models over and over again.
Exactly.
The same thing. So it's really hard to even be in that position.
Yeah. This topic reminds me of one of my favorite movies by Nicholas Winding Refn. I don't know if you guys saw it, The Neon Demon. It is basically about the model, the young girl who comes to Los Angeles to try to become a model, and it's a very visually beautiful and crazy movie. And again, it's over exaggerated, but in the movie, these models, they literally eat each other. And a competition, and in this desire for use, for beauty, for fresh blood, and it's like,
yikes.
it's very dark, but it's very parallel to what is
Yeah.
actually happening,
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, I think things are changing though, because you have social
Yeah,
media
no,
now.
for sure.
Everyone has their own personal brand, so you can just be successful modeling for yourself.
Yeah.
For
Right.
sure.
So I think that's a good thing for
All right,
us.
let's see how many mythology cards we have left, and we can probably bounce. Is it my turn to pull?
I don't know.
Or is it
I
Dan?
don't remember.
No, maybe no. I just read one.
No, I read one too. Vampirism.
Oh, okay.
Oh. That is me.
Marina's turn.
You're looking?
I didn't. Sorry. Okay. Call to adventure. This is for you guys. Okay. Watch brands must do dangerous and manly things. Okay. And we have division between Rolex and Omega. Omega or Omega?
Omega, I think, is British pronunciation.
Omega. Okay. Rolex. James Bond watch. Pre 1995. Broke sound barrier in 1947.
I think you can read them left and right. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Rolex James Bond watch pre 1995. Omega James Bond watch post 1995. Okay, I see how that works now. Okay, Rolex broke sound barrier in 1947. Omega first to the moon in 1969. Rolex top of Mount Everest 1953. Omega first to the North Pole in 1968. Rolex deepest ocean descent in 1960, and Omega new deepest dive in 2019.
Interesting.
The call to adventure. So my question is, what's next?
What is that?
What's the next crazy thing these watches need to pull off?
Go to Mars?
I
Oh,
guess.
that's a
big
good
one.
one.
Yeah.
Mars is
Another
a good
planet?
one. The Mars watch.
Yeah.
What's going to be
Yeah.
the Mars watch?
Mars watch. So,
Wow.
so you saying they're competing between each other, or kind of like?
Kind of. I mean, yeah. So obviously, initially for these things to happen,
Yeah.
they have to compete, at least in the minds of the people. Like Hillary, when he was climbing up Mount Everest, he chose to wear a Rolex watch because it's an unbreakable piece of metal that can survive harsh environments, right?
Okay.
But yeah, they're definitely competing on manliness, right? And so if you notice, like the last one, so Rolex had the deepest dive in the world, right?
Wow.
They used to have the ability to say that they were the highest point and the lowest point on the planet.
Yeah.
That was something they could say in their mythology,
Yeah.
in their
Okay.
marketing. They can't do that anymore
Because someone broke them.
because Omega went deeper.
Oh wow.
It is like a competition then.
Yeah.
It's like a
That's
one-upmanship.
crazy, yeah. And I feel like it's between a lot of brands, right? That are kind of in the same level, right? They're
Yeah.
competing. They're like, oh, who's gonna do it cooler? Who's gonna do it better?
It's like in racing, Mercedes versus Ferrari.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even like these like endurance races, right? So you can last longest or travel the farthest,
Yeah.
in their outdoor recreational
So-
vehicle. But again, like let's say I'm a luxury, upcoming luxury brand, like a watchmaker. I want to be that watch on Mars first.
Yes.
when
Okay.
when
Yeah.
Elon Musk lands, because that'll make my entire brand.
That is millions
Yeah.
of dollars of free
Millions.
advertising for
Yeah.
the rest of life.
My
Right
the,
there.
the only watch to land on Mars. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine that? That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
insane.
I love it.
All right.
Do we keep going with
How
mythology,
many do
or-
we have left?
3.
Let me see which ones are there, and I can decide if there's something
right.
that's like really worth.
We're
These-
taking you on a journey.
These are
with
all
us,
these
guys.
all three of these are pretty good. I'm not gonna make you read this one. I can make Darren read this
All right.
one. This one. I want the clip out of this.
For 1,000, Alex, mythology. Cover up your dark past. Many old brands have to protect their mythology by covering up their dark past. Ooh. Okay. Coco Chanel was a Nazi. We can't use that word.
Yes, we can.
Intelligence asset, codename Westminster, working with her lover and spy, Baron Hans Gunther von Dinklage. That's his real name.
Yeah, what's his real name?
That's a long name. Wow. So here's the question: have brands done a good job covering up their dark past?
Yeah. So with the whole Coco Chanel story, it's pretty crazy. She was a big fan of the guy with the mustache, and she had this lover, this dashing German spy, von Dinklage, and kind of what happened was the French intelligence service knew this happened, and Coco Chanel was pretty good friends with Winston Churchill. And so after the war, instead of kind of facing her crimes, one, she was kind of working with them, and two, she was trying to steal the perfume company Chanel from the Jewish owners, because she's licensed perfume company to this Jewish family who currently own Chanel now. And she basically was trying to use the Aryan laws in France to take control of the company from them. But fortunately, they were smart enough to give the company to somebody else. And then they were able to get it away to the United States while the war was going on. So there's kind of this dark story with Chanel. But what happened is that nobody in France wanted to talk about it. Like the French intelligence services knew about it. There's like a file about it and all this kind of thing. But it would be really bad for the French luxury industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. If you think about it, this kind of association, a lot of the luxury brands had associations with under occupation. They were doing some things. And it was when Chanel passed away and they wanted to do a state funeral. Like the wife of the president of France is like, we need to do a state funeral for Coco Chanel. And the French intelligence services are like, hold on a second.
Not a good idea.
No. And that's when they finally released, after she passed away, they released the information about the fact that she was working. She was a collaborator and a sympathizer with the Germans.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm sure a lot of these like luxury brands, because they're from like the 1800s, they probably have a dark history. That
I mean, so Hugo Boss was designing the uniforms for the Germans in World War II.
Yeah.
For the SS, for everybody, right?
Wow.
Louis Vuitton was making these weird statuettes of the French regime leader under the occupation. The only one that I think came out kind of okay out of the luxury brands was Christian Dior, because he basically shut down shop, and his sister was a French resistance fighter who ended up in a concentration camp, and she survived.
Wow.
And it's in her honor that he named the perfume Miss Dior.
Oh.
She is the Miss Dior.
Wow.
That is nice. I like how every product actually has like a little backstory, a secret, meaning to it. That it's not just, the perfume. Here you go.
Yeah.
When designers actually have
So
something to tell.
some of these brands have some dark past you got to kind of close up on.
Cool.
Okay, so last one for the mythology. All right. The Hollywood connection. Opinion differs among luxury brands as to whether using celebrities to promote luxury is good.
Okay.
Louis Vuitton loves using celebrities.
Yes.
Hermès limits use and thinks it's a sign of brand weakness. For them, their customers are their representation. Right? The fact that they're owned by all these people. Saint Laurent, Balenciaga, and Chanel are cautious and choosy regarding celebrity use. What's kind of interesting about the whole Hollywood connection is for the longest time, these luxury brands did not want to work with Hollywood celebrities.
Why not?
It was just below them. Like Christian Dior, he's like, they asked him to make clothes for films and stuff like that and for celebrities. And he's like, I make clothes for aristocrats. Who are these actresses? I can't do it. And so the first one to actually flirt with making clothes for Hollywood was Givenchy, right? He got a call one day to make, basically dress Hepburn for the movie Sabrina in the early 1950s.
Oh, okay.
And what happened is Hepburn, she showed up at his studio, right? And Givenchy had a freak out because he thought Katharine Hepburn was coming. And Katharine Hepburn at this point in time was a major movie star. She's older, like a couple of generations older than Audrey Hepburn, who ended up being Sabrina.
Yeah.
And Katharine Hepburn had the aristocratic background that Givenchy expected. She went to the right schools. She was kind of known things. You have to keep in mind, Givenchy was Count Hubert de Givenchy.
Wow.
And so he had a freak out, and he's like, no. It's like, and he's like, just pick whatever you want from the last year's collection off the rack.
Really?
And basically stormed out on Audrey Hepburn.
Wow.
Later that evening, they were scheduled to have a dinner together, and so they sat down and had a dinner. And Audrey Hepburn mesmerized him so much with her sophistication and her charm that she completely turned him around on it. And that broke the standing rule, especially in French luxury, of not working with celebrities. And all of a sudden, he dressed her for Sabrina, for breakfast at Tiffany's, and he made her the face of the Givenchy perfume, which was the first time a celebrity was the face of a perfume.
Interesting.
And so the Hollywood connection, Hermès doesn't think it's good to
Okay.
to use celebrities.
No, I see it all the time. Every time I see an LV ad now, I feel like I see like Ryan Gosling or some celebrity being,
Exactly. There was like this big scandal with Johnny Depp. I don't know if you guys remember when he was divorcing
Amber Heard?
Amber Heard,
Yeah.
right? But he's a face of Dior, right? The Sauvage. And all this divorce. And basically Dior had to make a decision. Either they want to keep him or they want to get rid of him because he's the face of the brand, right? And now there's all this nasty stuff happens. But Dior decided to stay with him. So they never got rid of him. They were like, okay, we'll with you.
It might be an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
But I feel like he shouldn't have been a face of that perfume anyway. If he maybe like 20 years ago, I'm being elitist here, but like
Wow. Okay.
like old grandpa rock and roll wannabe Johnny Depp as the face of a perfume brand. It doesn't hit. It doesn't hit the same way.
Oh, come on. I love Johnny Depp.
I adore Johnny Depp as an actor, but like that whole campaign, just like it doesn't hit. We were going on our trip to Mexico as a company, right? And we were walking through the airport, and there was the commercial with Aaron Taylor Johnson, the potential hopeful for the new James Bond, right? I'm not sure which brand it was from. That's one of the issues with celebrities in commercials.
I think Armani.
As Armani, okay.
I think so.
Armani perfume, and he's just like, badass diving into the water. He's ripped because he just came off of Craven the Hunter, right? That works.
Okay.
Man, Johnny Depp was.
Well, it works for you. So
Yeah,
maybe.
I
Somebody,
think,
yeah.
I think there's a little mystery with.
Also,
Johnny
I
Depp.
feel like Dior Sauvage just smells like cigarettes.
Oh, really? Okay. I never.
I'm
smelled it.
teasing. I'm joking. I'm
Okay.
joking.
Wow.
Okay. We're proceeding now to the status.
All right, we're
section.
moving on to status. Here, I'll just pick one for myself. Luxury as conformity. Around 2007, it was estimated that roughly 50% of all luxury goods were sold to Japanese customers. Approximately 40% of all Japanese own a Louis Vuitton product. 40%? That's huge.
At least in
Good for
2007.
them.
Wow. Okay. So, is luxury distinctive or conformist? Interesting.
So that's an interesting phenomenon
Okay.
because it's over there. It's almost becoming a thing. Like if you're talking about status signaling and owning a luxury product is basically just entry level.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if 40% of the population own an LV bag, then you're just not.
It's not exclusive anymore.
Yeah,
it's not.
not.
It doesn't make this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you have it, I have it, cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you
It
special
doesn't make
anymore.
it special
yeah.
anymore. But then you just have to conform to it because everyone else has it.
You have to
Yeah.
conform to it, right? And again, there's a kind of unique economic situations going on where, like, a large part of the Japanese population, they don't have expenses like, for example, in America, we have to buy cars. If you live in a city that requires cars or like property or whatever it is. So they have jobs, they're working professional jobs, and they have a lot of disposable income. And sometimes, there's stories of like girls spending their entire paycheck on just a luxury product. Because it's one of the ways, if there's no other way to seek meaning in your society, that in some ways gives them meaning and pleasure, I think.
Interesting.
What is the most expensive luxury product you have?
Most expensive luxury product I have?
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. I mean, do guitars count?
I get the
Yeah.
guitar's luxury. Yeah, I
Martin?
guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have a $1,500 guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do cars count?
Cars do,
okay,
but also no.
But no.
It's a different class.
yeah.
These shoes are $1,000 for Gucci shoes.
Ooh.
Okay.
Or $1,000, I think.
Okay.
Something like that.
nice.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Hand me
Okay.
the status signaling
Sure.
thing. So, as we move through life, we're always signaling status in some way. And there's a very interesting game theory to how status works, where originality is an aristocratic privilege. An indication of high status is being able to get away with distinctive acts,
Okay.
like dressing up as a pigeon to a party by Marc
All
Jacobs.
right.
Okay.
So if somebody else tried to do that at that party,
Yeah.
chances are they would not have been able to pull it off.
They would probably not be let into a party.
Yeah, they probably not be let into the party. So one of the ways the game theory of status signaling works is that a lot of the innovation that happens in terms of like trying new status signals, it's either people who have highest status are able to pull it off, or it's the people of lowest status in a hierarchy are pulling it off because they have nothing to lose.
Okay.
Which a lot of times this is why new status signals start forming in societies. Things like, you know, the grunge movement or punk music, these subcultures, right? It's when you have people who are a lower end of a status hierarchy.
Yeah.
Whether it's a global hierarchy or your local Dungeons and Dragons club.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, people are constantly status signaling and trying to figure out where they are in a hierarchy. Originality, distinctive acts are kind of the purview of the people either at the very top or the people at the bottom. Who have nothing
there was
to lose.
there was this game on the internet I saw people playing. It was called Homeless or Hipster. And there was this pictures of guys in Silver Lake, and you had to guess if they're either homeless man or a hipster from Silver Lake.
That is so funny.
But it's true, right? It's like either the low or the high end status gets
Oh,
to
wow.
dictate fashion.
All right.
a lot of
I
times.
guess, yeah.
All right, next.
Let's hit this.
Breaking Economics 101.
I'm so sorry.
A Veblen god is a product for which a decline in price actually makes the demand for the product to go down instead of up.
A Veblen good.
Veblen good. Sorry, not god, good.
I'm so sorry.
You gave Marie the hardest card to read.
Yeah.
English is not my first language, so I'm sorry. So could you explain Veblen good?
So a Veblen good, it's a terminology that came up in economics. They had to invent a new word for when you have a product that's like super expensive, like $100,000. And if you lowered the price of the product to $75,000, people would want it less. So normally in economics, when you lower the price, it increases demand because there's more people willing to pay the price. But there's these strange things, these strange anomalies, which a lot of these luxury products are, that if they actually lowered the price for the thing, it would make less people want it.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's because these things are status symbols. Where if you're trying to signal status through the ownership of a particular thing and other people can now afford that thing, it is no longer useful to you as a status symbol.
Yeah.
So a crocodile Birkin bag is a very powerful status symbol because it's like minimum like $35,000, $50,000 product.
Yeah.
And if they lowered the price, all of a sudden people would start looking for a new thing they can buy
Show off that
to show off that they are
somebody.
they're at a higher status
Okay.
level than somebody else. So that's a Veblen good. It's a strange anomaly in economics.
Yeah,
Sorry for that card.
You know, that's very true. Again, like a lot of people, I heard the nightclub industry, right? It's just a lot of people who try to one up each other and how much they spend in, for example, bottle service and champagne.
Yeah.
And people who go there who spend a big amount of dollars just do it just for the status.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it sustains that industry, the status symbol.
But do you ever think that, I wish I could do that?
Me?
Yeah.
Uh, Me? Not personally, no. It's
Okay.
like,
How about you?
It might make sense in certain situations.
Okay.
And again, once you start thinking about the game theory of this, I think there's a card in there that explains the entire structure of how status signaling works across an entire group of people. Sam, our CEO, right? He talks about sometimes it is well worth spending $100,000 on a weekend when entertaining clients.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If that brings in $5 million of revenue to the company.
Absolutely.
So in those cases, I think then it does make complete sense. I think you just should avoid getting lost in it, right? You just realize that it's something you functionally have to do the same way you have to put on a spectacle
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be able to draw attention to your luxury brand, to make it famous.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things you have to do, but don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. Like companies have to maintain a status as well. right.
Okay.
Next card.
For you.
All right. Status. High status and detachment. Ooh, is this like a psychology one?
I guess so.
Okay. Very high status individuals need to seem detached from active attempts at status claims. Oh. Boasting and bragging are status claims that backfire and are perceived as low status. Interesting. Lower end handbags retain large logos. Higher end handbags have small logos and use recognizable design instead.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the last part is for you.
Okay.
Actually, it's perfect.
For every $5,000 increase in price, the logo shrinks by a centimeter. Jonah Berger, Mercedes logo, A-Class 16 centimeters, C-Class 12 centimeters, S-Class 6 centimeters. I had no idea.
How big is your
about the
logo?
Mercedes. I don't know. I have to measure it. I never really measured it. That is crazy.
It's like a reverse,
Interesting.
measuring contest.
That is nice.
Yeah.
So, for example, some of the high-end Hermès bags, right? The logo is like poked, like it's like made as holes inside of the
Poked in
leather.
the leather, yeah,
right.
I know that
But
one,
it's
yeah.
meant to be worn
Inside.
against your leg, so it's never showing outside. And so, the highest status individuals, when they are signaling, they're signaling in a more subtle way. Like, remember we were talking about Patek Philippe?
Yeah.
It's a more subtle signaling.
Very subtle
They're not
watch.
going to have a big pattern, like a Louis Vuitton pattern. It's going to be something, if you know, you know.
Yeah. No, a lot of people, like, if you go to a fancy steakhouse, a lot of people, there was a social media post I watched, some girl explaining, if you go to a fancy steakhouse, the most richest people are usually the ones who are the most low-key, wearing just
Yeah.
simple dress and outfits that's not standing out. And the
Exactly.
poorest ones are usually the ones who
Show
are
off
showing
everything
off.
I have.
Yeah,
Yes,
wearing whatever kind of
exactly.
luxury brand, showing everything.
Exactly.
Because a lot of the people who are like high status don't want to show that off, right?
yeah.
It's deemed as kind of like like boasting, or like, you know what I mean? So they don't want to do that.
It's also that same principle we talked about with Dr. Ian, where from Sun Tzu, when you are weak, appear strong. When you are strong, appear weak.
Yeah.
Just from a pure like military strategy standpoint, it helps a lot, right? And then, so there's a certain point in time where you generally don't need to prove anything.
Yeah.
And therefore you have the luxury of being detached
Exactly.
from the entire
Yeah.
status signaling game.
Very, very cool. All right, next card. Gene, your turn.
All right. Okay. So this is probably, for me, was the biggest profound thing that came up in my research on all these topics. So this is a book by W. David Marks, who talks about status and culture. And he kind of lays out this game theory of status signaling, how important it is for us to constantly be showing people where we are in status, right? If we're in the military, we have military uniforms, it's pretty clear where we are, right? We wear medals to show our achievements.
stars,
we have
right?
stars,
Yeah.
people know rank. But in civilian life, right, we constantly need to be kind of signaling where we are, that kind of thing. So the game's theory of status signaling. Everyone's best move is to imitate the status signals of those above you,
Okay.
which is something I feel in my life I've gotten wrong a lot.
Okay.
Because innovation and creativity and whatever it is an aristocratic privilege. Being the pigeon showing up to the Venetian party,
Okay.
right? A lot of ways, it's something you can get into trouble if you're trying to stand out too much, right? The exception is that the highest status and the lowest status individuals in the hierarchy. And the reason this works is that you are trying to raise your status in society. So you start imitating the status signals of people like one rung above you because you're trying to make your way up. So you start wearing the clothes or the watch or that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? And they're doing the same thing of the rung above them, and they're doing the thing of the rung above them. Eventually you reach the highest status people, and they have nobody to copy above them. But the people behind them are trying to catch up and imitate them.
Okay.
right? But the people highest status, they want to maintain their highest status. So they need to have distinction. They need to have something that looks different about them than the people the rung below them, which means they now need to invent something new, some new way of wearing clothes, some new thing that's popular that is now a symbol of their status. And this is what drives the fashion cycle. The reason fashion changes all the time is this constant battle.
It's a
people
race.
trying to catch up in their imitation game, and the highest status people, because they don't want the people behind them to catch up and imitate their status signals, they have to invent brand new status signals every season.
Wow.
Yeah. Or like people in general, like I think of like Madonna, right? She was always like kind of a fashion icon because she would develop her own fashion trends just by wearing or coming up with new ideas because she was at the top of her game.
Yeah.
But that makes a lot of sense. You know, a lot of people who are in the high tier where they have to
Come up with
the whole pigeon outfit or something.
a pigeon outfit, or even just on the level of a luxury brand, right? Chanel or Gucci or these companies, they have to come up with new outfits
Yes.
every season.
But maintaining the style, right?
They have to maintain continuity,
history.
but they need to come up with something new every season
Yeah.
because otherwise the brands that are trying to catch up and imitate them will be able to catch up and imitate them. And now everybody looks the same. So they have to constantly be trying to stay one step ahead and come up with the new rules of the game
Got it.
Yeah.
of status signaling, which is like now this year, burgundy's in, or like now we're wearing high top pants or
low waist.
high waist pants or low waist pants. And this weird little game theory of status signaling is literally the reason why things look old.
Wow.
Because it cycles.
Because
We're chasing.
it's
Everyone
constantly
is
chasing.
chasing the leader.
If the people at the highest level were happy enough to kind of stay where they are and this game theory was in place, we could get to a point where we decide like, oh, this thing looks good and we like the way this looks good
let's
and we
keep
don't
it,
have to
yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
But as a result of the status signal in game theory, people have to constantly keep changing the status signals so people behind them don't catch up.
Hey, who's the one who started the baggy jean trends again?
Oh, the Karl Kanai?
I don't know.
I think so, right?
Really?
We were working with that guy for a little bit.
Yeah, I was working for him.
But he's an old designer from like Brooklyn from when hip hop was still coming
Yeah.
up. Are you talking about like recently?
Yeah,
baggy jeans?
recently because I know it's like jean fashion like cycles, right? That's
Yeah.
a good indicator
Yeah.
how things are going with jeans. It's the same product, but the style changes. It seems like every 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be like skinny jeans, or before that it used to
Exactly.
be kind of like loose fit jeans. Now it's like really loose. or
yeah,
baggy.
it's like I was trying to find a skinny pants recently.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, I know,
They
right?
do not exist anymore.
I know all poor millennials out there who can't find skinny pants anymore.
And I'm like, I want a skinny pants, but they don't exist, and you have to wait another 10 years until they circle back or something. I don't know.
Yeah, same thing with music and all this stuff. Okay, let's see. Let's get
Next.
through these status
All right.
cards.
We're almost up on time, so maybe.
It's my turn, right?
Oh, your turn.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Target customers. It is not the product that makes a luxury brand, but the target customer. Okay. Brand choices should be guided by what the target customer wants to signal about themselves to the world at a large. Okay. So basically,
So really, at the end of the day, luxury brands need to stop making the products that they think they want. They need to make products that their target customer wants, and usually it is related to status signaling.
so they have to figure out who is their target audience first and then create a product for them.
In short, if you're actually trying to apply this, ask yourself the question: do you like your customers? And if you don't, you might need to find new types of customers and figure out what status signals to give them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's true because I think in luxury brands there's different tiers of a target audience that they go after. Like Hermès
Yeah.
goes after high end, LV might go after maybe slightly
No,
lower
but I
end.
also think it's different kinds of people. Like, let's say Balenciaga, right? And Dolce & Gabbana. I don't think a person would wear both. Like, it's
Really?
like, I think if you have your style, right, you're more elegant, right? You're more sophisticated. You wear Dolce & Gabbana, you wear Chanel. And then on the other side, you're a rebel, you're a rock star.
Got
you wear
it.
Balenciaga,
Got it.
you wear
Yeah, they're
I don't
edgier.
know, the
Edgier.
Philip Plain,
Yeah.
something
They'll-
edgier, something
and-
different.
And they're also very like the Balenciaga has kind of tapped into the athleisure, kind of almost like
Yeah.
hip hop kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? Where you have a lot of these brands, right, who are stepping away from standard like
Exactly.
status signals of suit and tie
Yeah.
to hoodies, sneakers,
And full face masks.
full face masks. All right.
And
Next. Okay. The danger of false status claims. Pretending to be high status through status signals can be turned into real status. Making false status claims can destroy your status completely.
So that's the danger of the game theory, is that pretending. So, for example, again, trying to put on a fake status symbol, potentially, like a fake watch, fake bag, whatever it is, or other types of status symbols there are, like Instagram followers. These are all different ways
Yeah.
we're signaling status, can create actual real status.
Okay.
It's fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you are discovered, it destroys your status.
Yeah.
In the David Marks book, they were talking about Vanilla Ice as the story, right?
Okay.
Because when he came onto the scene, apparently he was the hottest thing out there. He's a white boy rapper, supposedly from the streets of Miami, gangbanger. He came up with a song, but it turned out it was a ripoff of a Queen song. And very quickly, he was making all these status signals. But whenever you do a status signal, there's also a status appraisal from the people, whether they accept your signal or not. And his career crashed and burned.
Wow.
Because it turns out he didn't have any criminal history. He wasn't from the streets.
He didn't have
was
the
a
street
suburban
cred.
kid,
Yeah.
right? He didn't write his own stuff. He was faking the status signals of what was kind of an up and coming art form in that point in time in hip hop, and had a really bright moment, and then crashed and burned. Compared to, for example, somebody like Eminem,
Yeah.
right, who did become very successful as a white hip hop artist.
Yeah.
But he was taken under the wing of Dr. Dre, right? He is an incredible artist and rapper. So if you're gonna try to fake it till you make it and put forth certain status signals, you have to be careful not to crash and burn.
Okay.
That's why the game theory is usually you do the status signals of the rung right above you, because that's a safe enough thing to do.
Okay.
If you start walking into a room wearing a crown, pretending to be the king of England,
Got it.
I don't think your status signal and status, the appraisals of your status are not going to be
Right.
accepted.
Right. Don't show up to a fancy steakhouse in a Honda Civic.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
All right. Right. So,
You want to take all three?
yeah, I guess let's close this up. But this has been good. I've liked the repartee. And, I want less of me talking on this podcast.
Okay.
I mean, I like talking, but
Well, you're our marketing genius.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, next.
Okay, so I'll leave this one for kind of funny, but okay, so status anxiety. Strangely, societies with higher income inequality lead to higher consumption of luxury goods because of status anxiety. You would think that in like hardship times, people would spend less on luxury products.
Okay.
But because, again, luxury goods are a signal of status, and people are trying to change their destiny, the actual consumption of luxury goods goes up in hard economic times and in a society that has high inequality,
That's crazy.
which is kind of weird.
That is weird.
Which connects to this other thing that in times of economic hardship, it has been noticed that if a person only has $2, one will be spent on survival, while the other will be spent on some small luxury good.
Really?
And this is famously known as the lipstick effect. That during times like the Great Depression, you would have money, right? And you'd spend whatever you have left on on just like feeding your family, but you would save like some amount of money on a luxury good because it's something that helps you at least connect to some semblance of hope, some semblance of normalcy, of like that this is not all dark times, and people through just purchasing like a little lipstick and doing their makeup, even though it's the Great Depression and things are going really wrong and things are going downhill.
Yeah.
People reach out and to these luxury goods as symbols, as things that allow them to connect to the worlds that are built through the mythology.
All right.
And
Yeah, I think like for example, people who love Starbucks coffee, you know, you could be making minimum wage, but you'll spend $5 just for a
On a
cup of
coffee,
coffee,
yeah.
just for the status of having, hey, I'm drinking Starbucks with all these
and
other
and it's a
hipsters.
pleasure, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a little thing that like it's like going to, you know, even in the Great Depression, one of the biggest things that came up was the film industry, right? You know, Shirley Temple got the people in the Great Depression through the Great Depression. The little girl, she was dancing, she was singing.
Yeah.
She was huge because like everything is going wrong. People are going hungry. There's no jobs, but you could spend, I think it was 10 cents or whatever at that point in time to
For a
buy
movie ticket.
a movie ticket, and you could lose yourself for a little bit. It gives you some sense of hope, some sense of escape, and luxury products in some way also function that way. And the coffee, you know, going to
Can we
coffee.
say that vacation works that way? That you kind of escape to somewhere like exotic
Oh,
and nice
absolutely.
for a
I
week.
mean,
You feel
yeah.
yourself like you're
Maybe, yeah.
you know, this rich person on the beach
Well,
with a cocktail.
social media,
but-
right? You post it on social media. I'm in Hawaii. Look at me. I'm on the beach.
Yeah.
That's all status, right?
Exactly.
But it makes you feel great, but also elevates
But then
you.
also a week after you coming back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, we got 2 cards left, guys.
Okay.
Clothes maketh the man. In a 2019 Princeton study, people were judged as significantly more competent when clothing was perceived as richer. Judgments were made in as little as 130 milliseconds.
Okay.
Right, so people putting out a status signal of wearing clothes that
Okay.
were perceived as richer clothes, probably a suit or something in this case. Even when explicitly told to ignore the clothes or warned that clothes have nothing to do with ability, the biased judgment persisted. So even when people were told, like, ignore the clothes, you know, that has nothing to do with the person's ability, that status signal still got around and still
Subconscious.
affected people's perception of
Okay.
your ability, of how competent you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So status signals are powerful. And
I think people would want to hire Marina over us based on how she's dressed versus.
for sure. For sure.
No, but
So
it's
it does
basically,
work.
but it also helps when you know that you dressed well. It boosts your self-confidence, right? It boosts your like feel of self, and then it changes basically the person you are, right? Because when I'm uncomfortable, right, or I know that I have a hole in my, you know, stocking or something, I would be uncomfortable, and everything else would,
Yeah.
you know, crash.
It's if you remember
But-
from the episode on becoming someone else and personas and alter egos, we talked about enclothed cognition, which is the fact that by wearing certain clothes, you actually change your performance.
You change your personality.
The lab coat effect.
The lab coat effect, or when a guy wears a suit to a negotiation, his testosterone goes up and he gets more aggressive in the negotiation. So this Princeton study is kind of the opposite, because it's somebody viewing somebody in clothes and perceiving them as higher value, taking in those status signals, while in the Becoming Someone Else episode, we're talking about how by wearing those clothes, it's what you're talking about. It actually changes who you are, your identity, which changes your performance.
Yeah.
All right, guys, the final card.
Last one.
I don't know how I feel about this being the final card, but it's kind of funny. Status. Banning customers.
That's a fun one.
Luxury is keeping products out of the hands of certain customers.
Okay.
Tom Cruise's impossible mission. In 2006, at the Mission Impossible 3 premiere, Tom Cruise struggled for over 40 seconds to open the passenger door of a Bugatti for his wife, Katie Holmes. Deemed embarrassing, Bugatti put Tom Cruise on their lifetime ban list.
What? Tom Cruise? How high of a luxury
is
brand do you have to be?
Bugatti.
Can you imagine?
You got to be Bugatti.
Bugatti. It's like, oh, we're not gonna sell it to Tom
That's
anymore.
hilarious.
And so there's a number of famous ones. Bugatti's also a band of Floyd Mayweather, Simon Cowell. Ferrari has banned Pretty Boy sings "Baby,
Bieber?
Baby." Yeah, Justin Bieber. Ferrari banned Justin Bieber because he did an ugly rap on his Ferrari.
Oh,
And they're like, you can't modify a Ferrari, I guess, or you have to modify it very carefully in terms of what you do because they don't want to have ugly Ferraris driving around. And so,
yeah, there was a rap with a Ferrari with like a toaster cat or so, like toast. I don't know, like a cat.
yeah,
Like someone did, like a DJ, and then they banned him too.
yeah. So
Oh my
that would put you onto a ban list where
Yeah.
you at least directly would not be able to purchase a Ferrari going forward. You might be able to do it through friends or something, but then those friends might also end up being
In a
banned.
blacklist.
So there's a blacklist, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so how you act in relationship to these products, especially these cars, right? Tom Cruise got banned from buying a Bugatti for the rest of his life because he couldn't open the door.
That's
That's
ridiculous.
also not his fault.
It's really no, it really isn't. Like, but it's a funny story.
That is
and there's a
funny
video
story.
on there. We can make a clip out of it or something. But it's kind of
So
cute.
they have to you have to maintain a certain status where it's like, hey, look, it's a privilege to buy our products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as ridiculous as that sounds, but for luxury brands, like if you want to be a high tier luxury brand, you have to commit to that kind of level.
And it's essentially also a marketing move, right?
No publicity.
yes.
Yeah,
True,
so
very true.
Yeah,
it's putting forward the idea of exclusivity. Like we are so exclusive.
Yeah, message has
even-
been received.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think that concludes our podcast.
Yeah, guys. That
about
was-
luxury brands.
Interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us
Of
on
course.
our deep dive. Thank you, Marina, for all your insights, and again, thank you, Jean, for putting together all these wonderful cards.
Yes.
And again, to summarize, the craftsmanship is important, the mythology, and then the status of your luxury brand. So if you're out there who want to start creating your own brand, well, listen to our podcast, and now you have the complete formula and blueprint and how to do it.
And we're selling it for $19.99.
We'll sell these cards online maybe somewhere.
We should auction it off or something. I don't know. I'm joking.
Yeah, anyways, thank you guys for
love
joining
it.
us in our deep dive for luxury brands. I'm Darren with our marketing genius, Jean, and our
you,
special
guys. We
guest,
love you.
Marina. Thank you.
Hey.
Until next time. Bye.
Hi, Mom.